Welcome back, everyone. We are in among the final rounds of the group stages here. Of course, we have the match between HexagonMC and PixelmonGO, actually, who I think is missing someone right now. We'll have to get confirmation whether or not they'll actually arrive. Until that actually happens, though, let's see how things are going to be turning out. I believe both Hexagon MC and PixelmonGO are fairly high in the rankings right now. So this will determine at least what kind of seed they'll get. This, any input from you, Alba? How do you think things are going to go so far?
I don't know. I haven't checked the numbers yet, but I do recall PixelmonGO being a pretty dominant team so far, if I recall.
If I get confirmation now, they're actually, funnily enough, third and fourth respectively.
Yeah. Both these teams could afford to lose all three of these matches here. All it will really do is affect their seeding. But remember, the higher your seeding, theoretically the easier it is to have a longer thing. The higher your seeding, you'll be matched against people with lower seeding. So theoretically, you'll have an easier time. It rewards you for having a high seed. So both of these teams do want to win these matches. Correct me if I'm wrong. If either of these teams go 3-0 today, I'm fairly sure they'll take the top seed. Is that right?
Let me get confirmation now. If they do go 3-0, yeah, chances are they will become the number one seed, overtaking Smash MC, who currently is the only one with 7-2. We'll have to see if during gaming we'll be able to overtake them. I believe that will be either Friday or Saturday. In comes the first set of matches, though, as Kirsch is bringing out the Palafin. This is going to be tough as Rillaboom, although it does have the advantage, Palafin is certainly faster. The question remains whether or not it's going to be a hard switch or if it's just going to be a simple flip turn.
I suspect it's going to go for a hard switch. I don't think it's going to want to risk taking a Grassy Glide. Especially in its weaker form. Palafin is quite physically bulky, but it will just hard switch coming into a Meowscarada. Rillaboom actually likely expecting the switch there, going for a knockoff. I don't know if the Meowscarada's Choice Scarf. Meowscarada is very naturally fast anyway, so it will probably still outspeed most of the opposing team's side, where it is now going to struggle to outspeed boosted Pokemon and other Scarfers. So it is going to. It's not going to be as good of a pivot as it was before.
What I'm wondering is if we might potentially be seeing a Galarian Slowking here, hence the knockoff attempt.
Very possible. I expect Meowscarada to just go for a U-turn here, as Rillaboom, a Grassy Glide will not kill here.
That is
Rillaboom
true.
will just swap out. Hawlucha comes in. Wow. Hawlucha coming in immediately. Unburden Hawlucha is one of the most dominant late game sweepers in the game, full stop. Once its threats are taken out of the way, late game, it can just clean up. However, bringing it out on turn 3 is quite rare, and usually quite antithetical to what it wants to do. So we'll have to see exactly how well it does as a immediate early game threat. However, I expect that Kirsch is just going to be able to switch into something that easily threatens out the Hawlucha and will mean that Unburden cannot trigger again.
Oh my goodness.
So Diancie comes in and the Hawlucha goes for the Swords Dance. I'm gonna think Hawlucha +2 close combat against Mega Diancie. It'd hurt. I don't know if it would kill though. It would certainly hurt though. But it might even be worth keeping your Diancie non-Megad here to keep that significantly higher defense defense and special defense stat. Because when it megas, it loses that and instead trades it for offensive firepower. It may very well be worth just keeping this Diancie um, as it is, just so that you can guarantee that it survives against this Hawlucha. It goes for the close combat.
There we
It will
go.
kill anyway. The Hawlucha does now, its defense and special defense will be dropped, meaning it's going to be easier to revenge kill and push out.
Something to keep in mind, though, we did see Grassy Seed earlier, so that right now, at least at the current moment, Halucha's defense stat is pretty much neutral at this point. There is a very off chance, depending on what kind of hits are coming out, it could survive.
Very unfortunate with that Meowscarada losing its scarf, as it would actually be faster and a play rough would kill this Hawlucha, although it might not be running play rough as it is running triple axle. But losing that choice scarf will actually mean that Meowscarada will not be able to outspeed and will certainly die to a close combat. Does Kirsch actually have something that can take care of this Hawlucha as the Palafin comes in threatening with a jet punch?
While certainly Jet Punch would do a lot of damage, something to keep in mind is that it's do keep in mind that this Palafin is facing a +0 defense on Hawlucha rather than a -1. And if that's the case, I don't. Who knows if Jet Punch
Yeah, I
actually
don't know.
KOs
I think it will do a lot. I'm unsure if it will kill. Hawlucha's not the bulkiest Pokemon. It's usually built full speed, full attack for the Unburdened set, as you want as much firepower as you can get out of it. This Palafin is likely choice banded to give it as much damage output as possible. If there's anything on Kirsch's team that is going to threaten with a one-shot, it's going to be that. But the Gliscor comes in, taking the close combat and not actually caring too much. Hawlucha is now at -1 defense.
I think this is where we potentially see acrobatics. So if close combat did around, I want to say that's 68%, there is potentially the opportunity
Hawlucha goes for
that
the
Air
taunt.
Slash does survive. Taunt!
Gliscor goes for the
As
U-turn,
you-
though. Being able to presumably bring
Potentially
that
trying to
Palafin
bait-
in safely. And now that this Hawlucha is at -1 defense, the Palafin very well may kill it with a jet punch now. Very well, that may have been the idea, bringing the Palafin, bait out the close combat, switching to something that can live the close combat, and then slow U-turn back into the Palafin. To get that close combat defense drop in. That very well may have been the intention, as the Palafin does come back in, and I do believe now threatens the Hawlucha with a jet punch. Some good maneuvering
Well,
there.
that is true. I do potentially suspect that it might not quite go as planned here, depending on how things are set up. And the main reason why I suspect that is because this thing is either forced to switch or go for the KO. And chances are, I don't think Jet Punch will allow it to KO. There we go. Here comes the Jet Punch,
Just
and it
not
survives.
enough. Acrobatics comes out, but it does not kill. Palafin just bulky enough to live. The Hawlucha will now be threatened out or will die. Either way, that is a fantastic opportunity.
Rocky Helmet
Does kill the Palafin. However,
it's actually kind of surprising. Unless I was looking at it wrong, it looked like it was on 15%.
I don't know. All I know is it was enough to kill it. The Meowscarada does come back in, which will Slowbro out. You've now lost 2 Pokemon to that Hawlucha, which is a lot. However, you have stopped it from sweeping. You have forced it out. It will no longer be able to take advantage of Unburden. It will no longer have that speed boost. Most of your team that is just reasonably fast will now outspeed that Hawlucha. So it will no longer be nearly as much of a threat as it was. Although you've lost 2 Pokemon to it, you haven't lost the fight. And you've managed to give yourself enough room to keep living. The flower trick does a lot of damage to the Slowbro, but doesn't kill as the Slowbro goes for the slow U-turn, bringing out Darkrai. Darkrai is faster than Meowscarada and does heavily threaten him with an Ice Beam. Meowscarada is one of the most frail Pokemon you're going to see. It will not be able to stay in front of this Darkrai. And if this is a Z Hypnosis Darkrai, that's exactly what it likes to see. As it will just be able to go for a Z Hypnosis here and either get a sleep and a speed boost or just the speed boost.
It's actually kind of surprising they chose to go for Flower Trick there, as I would imagine knockoff dealing probably a little bit more.
As the Gliscor does come in, taking the Dark Pulse and dying. I guess, I don't know what the intention there was. Maybe just sacking the Gliscor, expecting a bit of nuts. I don't know. The Heatran does come out though. Heatran usually built as a special wool, can sometimes be a physical wool, but intense special wool. Darkrai will, well, this Darkrai could very well be running Z Focus Blast. We've seen it before in this tournament. It would hurt this Heatran a lot, but it might not be running it.
Yeah. Dark Pulse comes out as Magma Storm misses.
Is unfortunate. Also, that's another Dark. It's very much probably not running Focus Blast because of that, or it could be, and this is a choice locked Darkrai. I don't think we've seen it use anything other than Dark Pulse. I think it's just used Dark Pulse twice in a row, so it very well could be choice locked.
Dark Pulse comes out again. Are we going to watch
and
the
Heatran flinches. That's extremely unfortunate. The Heatran is not going to be able to get any value at all. Will be forced. In fact, will actually just die.
Won't switch out at all. Wild.
Kirsch is on a massive back foot here. As the Meowscarada comes back in, probably assuming that the Darkrai is choice locked into Dark Pulse and looking to clean up with we already know it's not running, probably because they're on Triple Axle, looking to at least do a large chunk, possibly even kill it with a U-turn, as the Rillaboom comes in, taking the U-turn and taking a huge amount of, not enough to kill, but a large amount nonetheless. As the Galarian Slowking does come in, I believe you were right about that Slowking read earlier.
Something to keep in mind, though, is that I would imagine Knockoff's still dealing significant amounts of damage, even if they attempt to go for a double switch.
Rillaboom will just U-turn out. Goes for a crit as well. That's very unfortunate. Shredder getting extremely lucky, by the way. The Dark Pulse flinch, the Magma Storm missing, the crit on that. The RNG is all in his favor. Will clean up the Slowking. I believe that Kirsch is probably going to lose here. They've lost so many Pokemon already. Trader hasn't lost any, I don't believe.
I do think Meowscarada is fast, is a little bit slower here, only by about 2 points. We'll have to see how much damage. Yeah, we will certainly have to see how much damage this Darkrai is going to do.
I think it is a choice especially Darkrai. Yep. We'll go for the U-turn. It will kill the Darkrai.
Damage. This looks like the final Pokemon, and Rillaboom is open to Grassy Glide. And with 5 Pokemon remaining, Schrader has defeated Kirsch and a feat of incredible fortune.
Yes, with a mix of some very, very good moves, some great reads, and some fantastic RNG. They swept that matchup in about 13 minutes. That was very fast.
It appears we'll be moving on to the next one. Judging by some of the reactions here, I suspect it could be Domino and Shy Kimmy, although I could very well be wrong here.
Keep in mind, both of these, anyone watching that's only joined now, both of these teams are going to qualify even if they lose all these matches. However, they are potentially fighting here for the top seed. This very well actually could be a depending on how things turn out, this very well could be a grand finals preview, as these are two very, very highly rated teams with some very high success.
And it looks like as we are waiting for this to happen, this is an interesting situation here. The announcement has been made. It looks like we'll be just getting some insights into the teams very soon. This is going to be tough.
Right, the battle is starting. We have an Iron Hands and an Urshifu Rapid Strike lead.
And so we are left with a very tough choice.
I expect Iron Hands to go for a fake out. It usually runs it. It's Iron because of the fact that we never get to see the very start of turn one because Pixelmon spectating. I don't know if this Iron Hands is booster energy or not. And if it was, what that stat was boosted. I don't know. Either way, this Urshifu will be faster. However, a fake out into perhaps a Supercell Slam or maybe the Urshifu will just immediately go for a U-turn. As the Iron Hands goes for a Swords Dance as the Rotom Wash comes in, very likely looking for a Will-O-Wisp here. However, this Iron Hands is now at +2. It very well may actually threaten this Rotom, prevent it. But if it is unable to kill this Rotom and the Iron Hands is burned, it's going to heavily affect the amount of damage it can. And it's going to effectively neuter it.
I would wager that that's precisely what Shaikimi is going for. If they are going for Will-O-Wisp here, I don't think there's anything that would like Will-O-Wisp except for maybe a fire type. But keep in mind, that could be what that could be what Hex wants here. The question remains: what is this Rotom going to go for? Are they going to? It actually was an attempt at a bait, and Gigavolt Havoc comes and removes the Rotom.
That is a Zed's Supercell Slam or Wild Charge. I don't know. Either way, it does remove the Rotom. That is a Rotom is usually a fantastic pivot and a great support. Losing that so early on is going to hurt long term. The Iron Valiant does come in. Could depending on what it's running, could theoretically threaten the Iron Hands. We won't know if that's a bluff or if it truly does threaten the Iron Hands out.
I do see the lack of a booster energy. There's a very reasonable chance this is a Choice Scarf variant. And oftentimes those do run Moonblast if memory serves.
The chance that this is it is a spec set and there's a Coco in the back somewhere.
There's a reason this thing is also known as Schrodinger's Valiant. Yep. We don't know if it's Choice Band, Choice Specs, Scarfs, Booster Energy,
Assault Vest, Life Orb, Zedstone. It's One of those Pokemon. Iron Hands will switch
There we
out to
go.
bring
Out
in
comes
the
the hand. Here comes the
Heatran.
Heatran
Iron Valiant goes for the
as
Moonblast,
Moonblast comes
doing
out.
little to nothing on that Heatran. Good job taking that Iron Hands out of the space. Fine though, this Iron Valiant very well could be running a Z focused last set. It is possible. And in that case, this Heatran would be gone in a moment. Heatran does go for the Stealth Rock. Either that Iron Valiant is choice locked or it does not have an option. As the Hoopa Unbound comes in.
I would argue, one of the better wall breakers in the tier. We'll have to see what this Hoopa goes for, as I do believe oftentimes it does run Choice Band, correct?
I believe it can, yeah. Heatran will switch out, bringing the Landorus in and taking the Hyperspace Fury. Probably only living due to that Intimidate.
I would actually wager, yeah, that would be the case. Question still remains, though, what is this Lando going to do? U-turn would certainly be enough to KO,
But is it fast enough?
That is true. For all we know, we could be looking at something else. Earthquake potentially threatening major damage on whatever decides to be swapped in. This is the dilemma we have to face, everyone. Is Landorus here going to choose to actually choosing to swap as Lando goes for the U-turn here. Dilly, I want to say like 7%. What does Landorus swap to here? Alright, out comes the Heatran here to threaten the Scizor. Is the Scizor potentially running CC, though?
Or will switch out as the Urshifu comes in. Heatran expecting the switch, going for the Earth Power.
Ooh. That could potentially be major.
Does do a
we'll have
good
to see,
chunk.
though, what does Urshifu attempt to go for here. If it goes for the U-turn, trying to bait out something, He-Man has a very high chance of remaining alive. However, Surging Strikes is coming out. There we go. In comes the Slowbro. I don't think it actually took any damage from Rocky Helmet, which is a little surprising. It
Very
could be
well could be running
protective
protective pads. Yep. Not too uncommon to see.
We'll have to see what Urshifu tries to do here. And this is a tough choice to make, as Slowbro is a very interesting Pokemon.
Can be a wall that can be really hard to break through if you don't have the right stuff to do so. Hoopa does come back in.
Problem this time around is that there's no Landorus here to try and wall it.
We'll switch into the Iron Hands, taking the Hyperspace Fury and taking a significant amount of damage, even though it isn't very effective.
And so we're left at a tough choice. Hyperspace Fury does come out. Chances are, I think Shai Kimi just needed a good sack there. We'll have to see what anything can really bring to counter this thing.
But is now at -2 defense.
And I don't believe Hoopa's usually very bulky, anyways. Landorus comes
does
out,
come back
yeah.
in. I think this Landorus may very well. I don't know if it is faster. Last time the Hoopa just swapped out.
That is true, and something to keep in mind is that a lot of things trying to come in are just going to face the combination of Urshifu and Scizor. There we go. Hoopa comes out as Scizor comes back in. Scizor hurt by Stealth Rock. As Earthquake comes out.
However, that Landorus, I think, maybe in range of a bullet punch. It is very low.
While that's true, that might be all it needs, as Scizor cannot roost, and the next thing to come in, I would imagine, would not be appreciative. However, I do imagine that this Landorus comes in, and out comes the Heatran, and I do suspect that Urshifu Rapid Strike will likely be coming out next. However, something to keep in mind, though, is that even if it's a resist, Magma Storm will probably be dealing a good amount of damage, even into something like Urshifu.
Also, that Urshifu, although it can switch in, It's not going to switch in without consequence, as last time it came into an Earth power, it took about 40%. Probably just a bit over, so if it does switch... they actually decide to just keep the Scizor in, allowing it to die, likely to bring in the Urshifu safely. As the Hoopa comes back in.
Actually choosing to bring in Kuba might be a wise play here, as nothing wants to be taking damage from this Hoopa. I would imagine even if something like Urshifu does choose to come out, this Hoopa has probably taken enough damage from Stealth Rock to start potentially dying to Earthquakes if it starts using Hyperspace Pull.
Interestingly enough, I think if this Heatran dies and the Landorus comes in, and the Hoopa is threatened out and forces the Urshifu to switch in, I think that Urshifu might actually die to a Landorus's Earth.
That's what I suspect as well.
Either way, I think that Landorus is imperative on Shaikimi's side, as I'm fairly sure it's the only thing that can deal with this Hoopa.
But Net comes in
taking
as
the Drain Punch.
A great read.
If this Hoopa is choice locked, then it will now be forced to switch out. And Banette, if this is a Mega Banette, gets one turn to do whatever prankster stuff it wants to do.
I would imagine potentially trying to do a little bit of trolling. Because I could potentially see some major things happening with Prankster Destiny Bond.
Count goals. Hoopa Unbound, is that the ghost one or the dark one?
Sorry?
Hoopa Unbound is the psychic dark one. I was thinking about how much damage Pursuit might do.
Likely not too much.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't imagine even then. There we go.
Will come out as the Iron Valiant comes out. Bannock going for the Poltergeist, actually killing the Iron Valiant outright.
Do keep in mind though, Mega Magnet has like I want to say around 160 attack.
Mm-hmm. And that's what 90 power stab move. That's gonna hurt a lot.
It's actually 110. Fun fact.
That's definitely gonna hurt a lot. Iron Valiant is fairly frail. It's why the Assault Vest isn't too uncommon.
With choice specs.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if on Kex's side that was I don't know if that was an attempt to go for a read there or just bring in something to just sacrifice against this Banette. I don't know. But the Hoopa will come back in, taking more rocks damage.
I will say now, because the Drake Punch was up, he literally would have had to either lose the Hoopa or something else. In comes the Hoopa.
Go for the Destiny Bond.
And
it goes for the Hyperspace Fury, taking it down to the Hoopa. Losing that Banette is rough, but getting rid of that Hoopa is a brilliant boon to Shaikimi's side. The match is not over yet. Shikimi can absolutely take it back from here, especially after taking down that Hoopa, as that was the biggest threat of Hex's team. Especially with that Iron Valiant lost as well, both losing both Iron Valiant and Hoopa to that Banette. A very worthwhile trade. Slowbro comes in, as does the opposing side's Urshifu.
And this is actually another dilemma at hand. Of course, we did see earlier U-turn dealing negligible damage. However, I think that's the only thing that it can do without potentially risking a future sight coming out, which I'm pretty sure is inevitable. In comes the U-turn, probably trying to bring something in. As Slowbro pivots out. The Galarian Slowking. Slowbro going for the future sight. This is gonna be this is actually a little bit more interesting than one might expect. The question still remains though, how much damage would Oh my. Galarian Slowking successfully paralyzing this. Galarian Slowking goes for the future sight as out comes the Landorus.
Will threaten this Slowking out. However, the Landorus needs to keep an eye on the turn counter, as it cannot stay in for that future sight or it will die.
The question remains though. Earthquake comes out, significantly KOing the Urshifu comes back out though. This is gonna be interesting. Is this potentially the final Pokemon? Choosing to let that
stays in.
probably...
Yep. The Slowbro comes in. Slowbro is going to take future sight this
time. On the contrary, it actually won't. Fury Strikes does a fairly decent amount. Slowbro going for the future sight.
Next turn?
Future sight won't proc here because of I believe it happened on the round Landorus fainted.
Ah, okay.
Surging Strike still dealing a decent amount of damage as Slowbro goes for the toxic.
As I do believe it is over here. I do not believe this Urshifu can break through. I think it's choice locked into Surging Strikes.
Potentially that might have been the difference between victory and defeat.
As the Urshifu will die to the future sight, as Shikimi wins actually quite closely. Being able to bring down that Hoopa was imperative. If they weren't able to do that, they were going to lose. But they were able to bring it down, and they were able to sway the match in their favor. Winning PixelmonGO their second point from these 3 matches. Going to go for the straight 3-0.
It looks like I think the next battle here, at least if I'm looking at things correctly, I think this is the actual I could potentially be seeing, if I'm looking at this right, either Blind or Jafirian. I would imagine it's Blind against I think Domino representing HexagonMC. And it looks like it does actually go out. This is going to be interesting, as if HexagonMC does not win, they could be looking significantly worse off in the seeds. And this is actually interesting, choosing to bring these two out. We do potentially get insights into their teams here. I believe I saw a Garchomp and a Lando.
Doesn't say too much about their teams, but does likely suggest they're both running fairly balanced sets, as you don't really see either of those Pokemon um, on a stole set, and only certain Garchomps are really viable on hyper sets. And of course, neither are really viable in sets. We could see potentially a weather team on one side, a sand team, but by the looks of it, we're probably just going to have a balanced set versus a balanced.
The question still remains, though, what is this Garchomp going to be? Because for all we know, it could either be the Stealth Rocking set, or it could
It could be the Tank
potentially.
Chop set. It could be the Stealth Rock set. It could be the Swords Dance Mega set. It could be the offensive non-mega set with Deadstone. It could be a million things. It's not one of those Pokemon. Iron Valiant, Landorus, Garchomp, they're all very much the same. It could be running a million things, and depending on what it's running, you need to approach it completely differently.
I suspect we might have potentially have been getting insights into their leads actually. So there is a chance that this is Tank Chomp. And it looks like the battle has begun. It's actually kind of a bit of an interesting decision here. Deciding to swap to the Tapu Koko, trying to eliminate it with Dazzling Gleam here. Potentially trying to read the Garchomp coming in. It looks like the read was correct. This is not a safe position right now.
Both sides will actually switch here. The Coco bringing in the Landorus and the Garchomp switching into a Tyranitar. We very well may have a sand team here.
The question still remains, though, what is going to happen in this instance as we are still waiting for the proper response. With this pivot in, any kind of swapping will likely trigger a little bit of sand damage. However, something that's a little confusing is why they choose to swap out into the. There we go. Corviknight comes out. Landa goes for the U-turn. Finally, some damage being dealt. I don't think I saw any sign of Rocky helmet damage on the Landorus. Could this Corviknight potentially be a similar set we saw before? Iron Moth comes out and speed has been boosted.
This Corviknight will need to switch out, and also need to be careful as to who they switch into, as a Tyranitar does not want to take an Energy Ball here. There's, especially with this Iron Moth running booster energy over a choice item, that will mean that it has the versatility to very potentially threaten anything that switches in, depending on what switched in.
What
Glenn
I'm
will have to
wondering
think
is
carefully.
what I'm wondering is how read heavy is this Iron Moth going to be? Because sure, Energy Ball could threaten that, but we could be seeing major damage coming out from something like, I don't know,
Under goes for the Psychic. I'm not sure what they expected to switch in there, something we obviously have not seen yet. As the Tyranitar will come in unscathed. A non-step Energy Ball will likely not be enough to kill Tyranitar. It is a stupidly bulky Pokemon, as it goes for the Mega, setting up Stealth Rock. The Landorus comes back in, this Tyranitar will be forced to back out.
Setting up Stealth Rock there is actually kind of important, as that limits the amount of times we'll be able to actually see Iron Moth this match.
Wow, lots of stuff just happened. So Tyrannosaurus switching into the Corviknight, and the Landorus U-turning out.
Now this could be interesting. Do you think Dazzling Gleam will come out, or do you think it's gonna go for a straight Thunderbolt?
Oh, Corviknight's U-turn as well. Oh, Landorus used Stealth Rock in the turn that Tyranitar switched, and then the Corviknight came in, and then it was Corviknight versus Landorus, and then the Landorus U-turned out, and the Corviknight also U-turned out. Bring in the Tapu Lele.
We're facing a terrain more, everyone. Let's see what's gonna happen.
Will mean that if that Ironmoth wants to come back in, it will not get that speed boost. And which will mean it actually will not be able to beat this Tapu Lele in a 1v1 if this is a Scarfed Tapu Lele that goes for a Psychic type attack. Goes for the Moonblast, hurting the Landorus quite a bit, but not a huge amount.
Something I'd wager though is that even if it is Choice Lock in the Moonblast, I don't think it wants to stay in too long. I don't think it's known as the most physically bulky. At least Tapu Lele isn't. So we'll have to see what Landorus tries to go for here, as U-turn would likely cause some pretty important problems down the line.
Tapu Lele did used to have some more defensively focused builds a couple of generations ago, but those have really fallen out of favor as the generations have gone forward. As basically the Choice Scarf set is the main one that has persisted. So it's possible, but I would find it very unlikely it's running one of the old. Granted, I say that we had I think the Fairthorn we saw the other day was an Uber's one from last generation. I'm still recovering from that, by the way. As the Garchomp comes in, Landorus going for the U-turn and taking rough skin damage. So we do know that this is not a Mega Sword Stance Garchomp, which is one of the hardest hitters, one of the hardest hitting wall breakers when in sand. As we have already seen a Mega out on that side. So it does narrow down what this Garchomp might be running, but we still don't know what exactly it could. We're likely going to see this next turn if it doesn't. As the Slowbro comes in.
And it looks like Garchomp, it doesn't really run contact moves, though. That's a bit of the problem. This Garchomp is probably relatively safe to either go for spikes or sword stance here.
The only contact move you really see from a Garchomp most of the time is specifically Outrage when it's running the Z Outrage set. That's about it. Garchomp does go for spikes. Does mean it's likely more of a utility focused Garchomp instead of a full offensive one. Slowbro going for the future set. That might actually be a Psychic Terrain boosted Future Sight, by the way.
Ooh.
Never mind, Psychic Terrain just faded. I don't know if the damage calculation for that Psychic Terrain is on the turn it hits or on the turn it's moved. I don't know. On the turn it's used.
It could actually be kind of bad, potentially, as I do believe Tyranitar is still alive, but as Garchomp is actually choosing the...
Oh, that is the Z Outrage set. As it goes for Z Outrage, completely killing that Tornadus as it comes in. The Tapu Koko does come in. If it wasn't in range of a Dazzling Gleam or HB Ice KO before, it absolutely is now at 57%.
Something I'm a little more curious about is I would imagine Dazzling Gleam is fairly safe here, as even if it pivots into the top of Lele, that's a pretty respectable amount of chip damage you're dealing.
I was going to just say, the Z Outrage and the Z Stone Age sets for Garchomp are my favorite. Godspeed. I love those sets, they're so fun.
In
Let's
comes the
go
Dazzling
for the Dazzling Gleam as the Coco stays in.
I would imagine it's very much a wise choice, allowing to potentially bring in the Tapu Lele for free, instantly removing any kind of electric terrain that will be being brought in. Here comes the Tapu Lele. The question still remains, though, what is this Tapu Lele going to be? What is this Tapu Lele going to be, go for here? Moonblast could be relatively free. However,
Psychic. Remember, this is a Psychic terrain boosted Psychic. That would do a lot of damage, but the Slowbro is going to come in. Takes the Moonblast. Takes a good chunk, but not enough to really threaten it.
I would imagine another. It's one thing is for certain though. It definitely cannot stay in.
I don't think it gets any regeneration moves, so no. I believe the only regeneration it gets is Regenerator. Actually, does it get recovered?
Well, it does get Slack Off, but I don't know if that's actually on the set. The questions is still there. We go.
It comes in, and the Iron Moth comes in.
A really good read, actually. But interestingly enough, what can Tyranitar really?
Well, remember this this Iron Moth. It is unboosted, and it is a non-stab energy ball against the Tyranitar. It would hurt, but I do not believe it would be enough to kill. However,
I doubt it would
even do all that much.
Even then, the special attack boost is still in play thanks to the Sandstorm. Actually, no, it doesn't look like the sand went through. Potentially went out early. Unless
Armoth will just switch out as the Tyranitar resets rocks. And it was coming in. Probably expecting an earthquake there.
Corviknight comes back out as Lando sets up rocks as well. What I'm potentially wondering is at what point does Tyranitar just click go and start killing? There we go. Out comes the Tapu Koko. Out comes the Tapu Lele. As Tapu Koko comes out and uses something. Actually, I do think it was a slow U-turn, so I could be wrong. Tapu Lele is very much a major threat right now. Something to keep in mind too is that I don't think Moonblast will allow Slowbro to really thrive. Most they can do is try and regenerate her off the damage, but even then, one more Moonblast would probably be enough to KO. There we go. Weavile comes out as Lele goes for the Moonblast and immediately handles it. Out comes the Iron Moth. And in comes the
energy ball, which does
Tyranitar.
do a lot to the Tyranitar. It doesn't kill, however, it will kill this coming turn, and Iron Moth is absolutely faster.
Depending on the range, and I could be wrong about this, Tapu Koko comes out as Stone Edge is enough to
Interesting,
KO.
actually deciding to stay in with a Tyranitar, risky move, and sacrificing the Tapu Koko for seemingly no reason. So that Iron Moth could have just gone for another energy ball.
I do imagine that since Corviknight is still alive, I wonder if he was trying to get the double read, immediately putting more pressure on it without risking a U-turn. At least that's what I would expect. At least it's my attempt at rationalizing what's going to happen here. But I would imagine with this Tapu Koko gone, things are looking significantly worse. In comes the Iron Moth once again, still dealing major damage thanks to Stealth Rock. This is going to be interesting, is if potentially I could see potentially a Sludge Wave coming out or Sludge Bomb.
Goes for the Sludge Wave.
There we go. Tyranitar fainted. Potentially, he was trying to get a read into the Tapu Lele, and if that was the case, that would have been devastating.
Lele will now actually have to come back in, setting Psychic Terrain, and it will be Scarfed. It will be faster than this Iron Moth, as the Iron Moth will lose its speed boost.
I do believe we saw earlier that it comes Corviknight actually. That's actually quite a little
Lele
bit
is still
surprising.
alive, right?
Yes, it is.
Corviknight going for a U-turn. Interesting as to why the Iron Moth swapped out. Voice locked. Does it not have Fiery Dance?
That's what I'm starting to wonder. Maybe, but even then, if it isn't running Fire Dance, here comes the Tapu Lele once again. I would imagine Scald being fairly respectable here. This might not be looking too good on behalf of HexagonMC. We could be seeing a 3-0 here. And if that's the case, that could be really bad. Moonblast comes out. Slowbro still somehow survives. However, I don't think Iron Moth is safe to come in. Oh.
It does come in, does take a good chunk. And this Iron Moth's going to die this coming turn. The Tapu Lele will be faster. It is a Scarf. Tapu Lele switches out
true,
into the
keep in mind it was
Toxapex.
choice locked.
Yes, but
Going
another
for Fire
Moonblast would have
Blast.
been enough to kill that Iron Moth, surely. Really low. But the Toxapex will come in. Fire Blast and not really caring. Interestingly, revealing that the Iron Moth does have a fire type attack, I'm very curious as to why it hasn't fire blasted the Corviknight. It's had 2 opportunities to now. Both times the Corviknight has gone for a U-turn. The Toxapex goes for the Toxic, likely expecting a switch. As Toxapex decides to recover this coming turn as the Fire Blast will miss. Psychic Aura is gone.
There we go. Toxapex recovering. At this point, it might just be trying to stall. Fire Blast avoids the attack as Toxapex goes for the recover again, potentially trying to keep its health in the off chance Slowbro is going to come in. Scald finally comes out and removes the Iron Moth. I would imagine the oncoming Toxic that's about to arrive is going to be devastating. What is left on Domino's side? Out comes the Slowbro. And I would imagine Future Sight is likely not nearly enough to KO. Although I could well be wrong. Toxic comes out. And Slowbro goes for the slack off the heel. However, I would imagine depending on the situation here, if this Toxic somehow has something like Baneful Bunker, Palafin comes out. Slowbro going for Future Sight. Why is base Palafin out, actually? That's what I'm curious about.
I think is that the
out,
first time that
healing.
Palafin has been revealed in this whole match?
Very much so, yes.
Even that in the back pocket, goddamn. And goes for the roost.
Corviknight going for the roost here to try and heal off a little bit more. What is Slowbro going to go for here? Going for Teleport. There was another Pokemon this entire time.
However, I'm so confused, man. Corviknight can now slow U-turn quite safely. This Landorus cannot really threaten it, and allowing the Palafin to come in. However, the Landorus also goes for a U-turn, bring Slowbro back in. Corviknight also goes for a U-turn, doing a small chunk of damage, not as much as it might want to, due to the fact that it is burned. Bringing the Tapu Lele back on field. Now threatening the Slowbro, and also this Landorus I don't think can safely switch into another Moonblast. I think it will die to another Moonblast. I think this Tapu Lele might be able to just press Moonblast until the cows come home and potentially clear out this match. Slowbro will go down to another Moonblast. As the Slowbro goes down, and the Landorus will have to come back in, and I believe it will die to a Moonblast here. I think this is going in favor of Blind. I think.
I can't confirm.
Even so, there is more than.
It lived.
However, it doesn't matter much, as the Corviknight is still alive, as is most notably the Palafin, which will be able to clean up without issue. Landorus does not stand a chance against Jet Punch, especially at that health value. It will go down.
And with 3 Pokemon remaining, Blind beats Domino, leading to a very strong 3-0.
And that will likely allow PixelmonGO to take the top seed in this tournament, at least so far.
This is going to be interesting, as I do believe coming up on Friday, we have the penultimate set of matches here, at least before the knockout stages. As always, I've been your commentator, Delta.
And I've been your commentator, Alba. Thanks for coming to watch. Let me just check when our. Let me just actually check. We do have matches tomorrow, and we have matches the day after. Those will be our last 2 days of matches in the group stages, actually. As the group stage is slowly coming to a close. And the teams are making their way into their final positions. If you want to find out more about the standings the teams are currently in, you can find out that out on the website. As well as if you want the exact schedules of the upcoming matches, you can find those on the Discord, which is also linked on the website. Thank you all for coming to watch today, and we'll see you